This episode, we're uncovering the wildest, weirdest, and most iconic memorabilia that rock left behind. These aren't just collectibles, they're the battle scars of music legends. So step into the vaults of rock and roll history and don't forget your credit card. Nothing sums up the grunge movement like the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video, which is why Kurt Cobain's 1969 Fender Mustang, famously used in that same video, became one of the most valuable instruments in rock history when it was sold for a jaw-dropping $4.5 million. And what type of person has that kind of money laying around? Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts.
He also owns a mind-boggling collection of music, sports, and other historic memorabilia.
He added it to his music collection, worth over $1 billion, that includes axes from Eddie Van Halen, Johnny Cash, and Les Paul. I wonder if I could afford that janitor's mop bucket. We all know Slash, the founding member of Guns N' Roses and one of the most iconic guitarists of all time, right? But could you pick his face out of a lineup? Not without that top hat. In fact, I would put him in the top 3 famous wearers of top hats. Well, you gotta put Mr. Peanut in there too. So a hat like that must come with an epic story. Maybe it's part of a monkey paw wish, where he was given all the power of a rock god, but in exchange, he would be forever tied to Axl Rose. Not so much.
Guns N' Roses had a show at the Whiskey. This was before we even had a record deal.
And he wandered into a nearby store called Retail Slut.
I didn't have any money, so I went in there, and it just, for some reason, it's sort of one of those things that sort of speaks to you. And so I just took it and walked out of the store with it.
Unfortunately, if you're looking to add this famous bit of haberdashery to your fit, you are out of luck because the hat was stolen after a performance at the Grammys.
Someone put up on the web somewhere that they had my hat and they would sell it for $50, and they found it on Hollywood Boulevard. So I got the cops on it. Cops eventually found the guy.
If an Alberta dentist has his way, baby John Lennon may be welcomed into the world a second time.
One of the weirdest and most cringe-worthy pieces of rock memorabilia ever sold is John Lennon's tooth. Back in the 1960s, Lennon handed it to his housekeeper, Dorothy Jarlett, casually saying, "Here, keep this." Fast forward a few decades, and in 2011, the tooth fetched $31,000 at auction because nothing screams die-hard fan like owning a Beatles dental history. The buyer? A Canadian dentist who hinted at dreams of cloning Lennon.
The story came out that, I wanted to be John Lennon's father. Well, I don't look at it that way. I look at it more like I'm his guardian. If I own his DNA, then I can determine what happens with it.
Because apparently, having a Let It Be on vinyl wasn't enough. It's proof that even John's discarded body parts can outsell most artists' entire careers. Lady Gaga's legendary meat dress, worn at the 2010 MTV VMAs, is proof that she'll go to any lengths or grocery stores to make a statement. Constructed entirely out of raw beef, the dress left fans stunned, vegans horrified, and butchers everywhere wondering how they missed such a lucrative fashion opportunity.
I want to give my fans everything that they deserve. They deserve the real me all the time, and this is who I am.
After the event, the dress didn't just rot away. It was preserved like a fancy jerky and eventually ended up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now on display, it stands as a carnivorous symbol of Gaga's boundary-pushing creativity. Call it art, call it shocking, or just call it what it is. A truly well-done moment in pop history. Fashion is as much a part of rock and roll as the instruments themselves. Case in point, Kurt Cobain's green cardigan from Nirvana's iconic MTV Unplugged performance.
It's easily identified because of the stains and burns, and he wore it on the most important performance.
The unwashed, thrifted sweater, complete with cigarette burns and a missing button, sold for an astounding $334,000 in 2019. This makes it the most expensive sweater ever sold.
It's the holy grail of article of clothing of Kurt Cobain's that could ever come up for auction.
The legendary light-up dance floor from Saturday Night Fever, the very stage where John Travolta strutted his disco stuff, sold at auction for a staggering $1.2 million in 2022. The buyer didn't just snag a chunk of disco history, they bought the ultimate flex, a Technicolor altar to 1970s excess, coming in at 24 by 16 feet wide. The floor wasn't just a prop, it was the Disco King's throne. Unfortunately, it was purchased by an anonymous buyer, so we don't know where the party's at. I guess they were either embarrassed because of the price or afraid that they'd get a bunch of randos in polyester showing up at their house. And here's the special menu, in case you have some extra money lying around. Why not get yourself Jimi Hendrix's legendary 1968 White Fender Stratocaster, the same guitar he used to deliver his mind-blowing rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock. It was sold to Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen for a reported $2 million. But don't worry, it's not hidden in some billionaire doomsday bunker. You can always visit it at Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture. John Lennon's humble Steinway Model Z piano, the very one he used to write Imagine, sold for a jaw-dropping $2.1 million in 2000 to none other than George Michael, proving that pop stars really do have the best toys. Unlike most rich collectors who probably would turn it into a fancy coffee table, Michael actually kept the spirit of Lennon alive by sharing the piano with museums and charities. Kurt Cobain's 1959 Martin D 18E, the same guitar he strummed during Nirvana's haunting MTV Unplugged set, made history when it sold for an eye-watering $6 million in 2020, officially becoming the world's most expensive piece of grunge. Worn, scratched, and probably still carrying a faint whiff of cigarette smoke, this guitar wasn't just an instrument, it was a mood. People love music and will pay almost anything to own a piece of it. I'm Katie Darrell. Until next time, keep it loud, keep it weird, and remember, history isn't just written, it's smashed, strummed, and occasionally sold at auction for millions.